dark, dangerous reality of that booming industry, this was the pre-modern era of the railway yard. We're talking about a time way before the strict, modernized safety systems we rely on today. Railroads were incredibly dangerous places to work. Workers could so easily be struck by heavy machinery, passengers were at constant risk of severe injury, and terrible fatal accidents, well, they happened a lot. And many of these horrific tragedies happened far out on the rural tracks or deep in the industrial railway yards, completely hidden away from the public eye.
It's exactly out of this brutal history of steel, sweat, and largely forgotten tragedy that the local legends began to take root. People started talking. Over the years, stories began circulating in hushed tones among the locals and the railway workers. They'd whisper about strange, unnatural sounds echoing through the yards at night. They talked about unexplained sights around the lonely stretches of track. And eventually, all of these fragmented, terrifying encounters sort of coalesced into one distinct, enduring legend. The story of a train that simply wasn't supposed to be there.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Phantom Locomotive, Anatomy of the Legend. Let's break down exactly what people are claiming to see when they step into the dark. The source material actually outlines a very specific step-by-step sensory progression that witnesses report, and it always begins with audio. Step 1, the distant whistle. It sounds completely authentic, just echoing through the night. Then, Step 2, the physical sound of heavy wheels grinding and moving along the metal rails. The anticipation really builds here. And finally, Step 3, the visual confirmation. Headlights suddenly cut through the darkness, practically blinding the witness. To the person standing there in the railway yard, this sensory buildup makes the train appear completely, terrifyingly real. Whether they describe seeing an old-fashioned, smoke-billowing steam locomotive or a massive, dark passenger train, the sequence of events always tricks the brain into believing a physical machine is bearing down on them.
But here is where the horror truly sets in. A normal train in a railway yard is an undeniable physical presence, right? It has a deafeningly noisy engine, the ground literally rumbles beneath your feet under the sheer weight of thousands of tons of steel, and it's carrying physical cargo. The ghost train, on the other hand, well, it defies all laws of physics. As it approaches, the engine is completely silent. There's no rumble in the earth, and the most terrifying anomaly of all, its sudden disappearance. It doesn't pass you by, it just vanishes. In some of the most chilling versions of the folklore, witnesses say that even after the blinding headlights disappear into thin air, the eerie sound of the train continues to echo through the dark for several seconds before fading to dead silence. Absolutely wild.
So what does this all mean? What are we really dealing with here in the San Antonio railway yards? Is it truly a ghost? Like a literal memory from San Antonio's dangerous railroad past manifesting in the physical world? Or is it simply a trick of the darkness, a combination of distance and human imagination just running wild in a spooky setting?
Let's explore that in Section 3, Tricks of the Darkness, Why People Believe It. Let's shift gears for a second and look at the rational, scientific explanations behind these encounters.
You know, railroad ghost stories aren't just limited to San Antonio. They are incredibly common all across America. And there's actually a very fascinating scientific reason why these specific environments produce so many tales of the supernatural. The crucial point here is how the actual science of nighttime environments works against our perception. Think about the physical makeup of a railway yard. You've got these long stretches of highly reflective metal rails, and in the pitch black, those rails can catch and reflect a distant light source, making it look exactly like a concentrated headlight shining right at you. On top of that, the acoustics of these areas are highly deceptive. Sounds travel surprisingly far along flat, open tracks. A real physical train operating miles away can often sound like it's right around the bend. So when you combine the reflective metal and traveling sound with environmental factors like rolling fog, pitch darkness, and natural echoes, well, it's a perfect recipe to trick human senses. Our brains literally take ordinary, distant events and piece them together into a localized, supernatural encounter.
And honestly, this reveals exactly why the legend persists, even when we fully understand the science of acoustics and light. Beyond the environmental tricks of the railway yard, this legend survives because of its massive emotional weight. San Antonio's history gives this folklore its power. Every single real train that passed through that city over the last century carried hundreds of human stories. Some passengers were heading toward bright new opportunities, while others were leaving their homes forever, never to return. And as we discussed earlier, some of those hardworking railroad men died on those tracks and never made it home to their families at all. When people hear an unexplained whistle in the dark, they aren't just hearing a trick of the wind, they're tapping into that deep sense of the past. It's so easy to imagine that perhaps one of those forgotten journeys, or one of those lost workers, never truly finished their route.
Now, when we look impartially at the source material and the facts, the reality is pretty clear. Today, modern San Antonio is a massive, bustling city. It's filled with concrete highways, towering buildings, and bright lights that pierce the night. And despite the sheer abundance of these chilling stories, there is absolutely zero reliable, confirmed historical evidence that a supernatural ghost train actually haunts these tracks. From a strictly factual standpoint, the phantom locomotive just does not exist.
But you know, perhaps the lack of hard evidence is exactly what makes the story so deeply unsettling. Legends don't always need proof to survive, right? They just need a quiet place to echo. Because when night falls on the edge of the city and the busy highways fade away, those old railroad tracks still become strangely heavily quiet. And that is exactly when the old stories return. So the next time you find yourself standing near an old, dark railway yard at night and you hear a solitary whistle echoing in the distance, you might want to look twice before stepping closer to the tracks, because according to the folklore, some trains don't carry passengers anymore. They carry memories, and some of them might still be traveling. If you enjoyed unpacking this mystery with us,